Hello and welcome to our webinar tonight, which is Making an Impact Beyond the Classroom. My name's Katie Stickley. I'm one of the co-founders of Those Who Can, and I love supporting teachers using their skills in meaningful ways, whether that's inside the classroom or outside in the community, making a real difference. As we know, teaching is incredibly powerful, shaping young minds, inspiring confidence, building foundations for sort of lifelong learning. But I know from my time in the classroom that sometimes the things that we do within our enrichment time or breaks or lunch times or before schools can make a real impact on particular children and their families, and sometimes the wider community. And that's kind of what this session is about tonight. It's all about sort of thinking about the impact that we can make with children in slightly different ways, like maybe sort of beyond the traditional classroom setting. So I'm thrilled to be joined by some other founders who have deep roots in education as well. And they've all created franchises that have embedded themselves within the local community. They're making a difference. They don't just run programs, they are actually changing lives, whether that's sort of boosting literacy, numeracy, language skills, STEM skills. That's really important with the well-being, the creativity, and that boosting confidence that you'll hear from their stories that the children are getting from that, and the impact that it has on their families as well. So whether you're curious about franchising, and that could be a new career path for you, or you want some sort of fresh ideas that you can enrich your current teaching practice, I'm so glad that you've joined here today, because we're going to have lots of inspiration from these wonderful people. So we're going to hear from Jane, Laura and Joe, and hopefully Tessa as well, if she comes and joins us in a bit, about their journeys, about the impact that they're having, and what kind of practical ways that they've got that you can use within your own kind of teaching practice in your own world. Okay, so I'd love to start with some introductions. So let's go for Jane first. Would you mind introducing yourself and your franchise?
Yes, and my name's Jane James. I'm Director of Inspiration and Passion, as my title I've been given. Founder and franchisor of Little Voices. We teach drama and singing to young people, but it's really about life skills. It's not about a life on the stage. It's about empowering children with skills for life through the arts. And I've been running Little Voices for 18 years this September.
That's really impressive. Well done. Okay, let's move on to Laura. Laura, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, yeah, I'm Laura. I was a primary school teacher. Prior to that, actually was a lawyer, a solicitor, so kind of had a few different career paths. So I was a primary teacher and left teaching to set up Inventors and Makers in 2019. So Inventors and Makers is a STEM provider. We run workshops and after school clubs in schools and in nurseries. So we don't run local community like children's classes. We only run through schools and nurseries so that we can kind of all children can access. They're in an educational setting. And yeah, we started franchising last year. So we only take on qualified and experienced teachers to run franchises. So we have a few franchises set up at the moment.
Brilliant. Thank you, Laura. And Joe, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, good evening. I'm Jo Morris, founder and franchisor of Lingos. I'm a former secondary school business studies and Spanish teacher. 10 years ago, I decided to set up Lingos musical Spanish classes. Did I just say that? And we run, I combined my skills in my teaching skills in business and Spanish, and we deliver classes, musical Spanish, in fun and engaging to the under fives in nursery settings.
Wonderful, thank you, and wonderful to have Tessa here as well. Lovely to see you. Thanks for joining us, Tessa. We're just doing quick introductions, so everyone's gone, so please introduce yourself.
Absolutely, fresh from a holiday camp. I am Tessa, founder and CEO of MiniMe Mindfulness. So we teach pre and primary school children, and actually now high school children, positive mindfulness and mindset techniques in a fun and innovative way. And yeah, we're delighted to be here amongst such amazing company. So thank you so much for the invite tonight. I'm very, very excited to be involved in the conversation. So thank you, Katie.
Yeah, no problem at all. And what I was saying to everyone is, like, really what we're here to do is we want to learn a bit about your franchises and how you inspire confidence, and how you make a sort of impact with children in a slightly different way. So obviously we know the impact that we have within lesson times, and that's really important. But the extra things, the times where you go the extra mile, I think that sort of stands out to me. And I've built some great relationships with students who were really struggling just by going out onto the football pitch and watching them play a game of football, or like taking them to a school trip and just seeing them interact in different ways. And so I really like this idea about like adding this impact beyond the classroom. So I'm going to kick off with some questions, and I would like to ask all of you to start with, and we can go through one at a time. You can butt in with each other. How do you find that your franchise embeds itself within the community to create these kind of meaningful relationships? So anyone like to go first?
Yes, certainly. We do you know what? In the community, we do a lot of work actually in the community. So our work crosses schools, nurseries, and linking in with the community, so to support not just children, but also their parents and the teachers too. Because we truly believe that actually with MiniMe Mindfulness, it's we have a huge job collectively to inspire the young minds and teach them additional skills beyond the classroom, simply because within the classroom there is so much more pressure nowadays than there have been before to get through the curriculum. So the traditional topics, we find, like the maths, the English, the science, or the boxes that need to be ticked, leaves very little room for anything else. And therefore I think the extracurricular activities are so important for really kind of helping children flourish in lots of different ways, whether it be languages or music, or things that people are really talented and skilled at and can really find their niche and find their joy. And with mindfulness and mindset techniques, as we know, the world is in a different place now, as it was 5 years ago, and the pressures that are felt by within the school community and by parents and teachers really needs that kind of community hug around it by people like us who are really invested in our topics and specialists as such, that we can bring the fun, we can bring the joy, and we can bring the education that's really needed outside the main system. So that's what we do at MiniMe Mindfulness, and we do so we work with schools, with nurseries, and communities as well. And so I've just come from a holiday camp, so it's really nice that we can invest our time in community projects to really bring people together, and not just allow them to have fun, but allow them to connect and build skills for life that's really going to carry them forward in a fun and innovative way.
Excellent, thank you. And Joe, I'd like to know from you, from your experience, what's it like going from the classroom and then going in like a different manner with your sort of franchise hat on? How's that transition been?
Well, I'd say because we're a weekly visitor, as so to speak, we're a weekly visitor in the nurseries. We're always well received. The children run up to us. There, Spanish is here. Spanish is here. I don't think anyone ever remembers the teachers or the franchise, the teachers' names, because it's always Spanish is here or Hola's back. But I think if I can, just picking up on what your previous question was about the community, and because we work predominantly within nurseries and preschools, because the children see us on a regular weekly basis, the way we get to communicate with the parents is through the lovely relationships we have with the nurseries, but they will invite us in quite often for Father's Day, or for Grandparents' Day and Play, or for Mother's Day, or for Christmas sing song, or that we might practice a song in our class week after week, and then the parents will come in and it will be part of their concert. And it's a lovely way, I think, that a lot of the nurseries use us to embed the community feel with their parents, sort of through the extracurricular classes. And so that's on that question. And in it's very different. It's very different from being in a school setting where you're given you've got your classes and you have your scheme of work you have to follow, and you can be as creative as you want in those classes, but really by teaching Mini Lingos classes, you're bringing your whole personality into into the work that you do and the business that you want to build. So it's a very different, all the same skills, but it's, I'd say, a much more creative, and it's just really fun. You've got to love what you do, really. I love what I do, and all my teachers love what they do, and it's just, you just have a lot of fun with the children. And I think certainly we work with the under fives, and they are so they're just so innocent and engaging at that age. And I think certainly I worked in secondary and in primary as well. During COVID, I did some more primary work when obviously we weren't allowed to go into nursery settings. And I think you've really got them at that young age. They soak everything up, and they just want to have fun, and that's what our musical Spanish classes provide.
Yeah, that's lovely. And it's nice that the parents can come in and get involved, and the grandparents come in and see what the children are doing as well. That adds that extra layer, doesn't it? Laura, with you, you're also sort of going in as a specialist, aren't you, with the sort of STEM education? How have you sort of adapted that to sort of fit the communities that you go into?
So yeah, slightly differently from Joe, we don't visit many schools every week. So people will tend to have like a STEM session once a year, or a few different year groups at different times. So we cover a lot. Just one person will cover a lot of schools, a lot of nurseries, and see a lot of children. So between me and the teacher that works with me here, we've already brought our STEM to over 7,000 children just so far this year. And there's 2 of us, because it's like the impact is on a lot of children, because we'll go in and maybe cover a whole school with assemblies and workshops, and then a whole nursery. And so there are some nurseries that we visit monthly, and that's really nice, like you say, Joe, that you have those children. Oh, it's engineering, oh, it's the STEM lady, or science today, etc. But then when we do after school clubs, I run one at my complete vested interest at my daughter's school, and I've run one for year 1 there, year after year after year, because it's a big school, and I just go in and all the children walk past and say, oh, you're the engineering lady. And children don't know what engineering is. And so when we go into schools, one of the first questions we say is, what's engineering? And they think it's fixing things. They think it's being a mechanic. And so it's about teaching them what engineering is. But we notice in the schools that we visit, they now know what engineering is. And, that's a real passion of mine, because I grew up as a girl in the 80s, 90s. I wasn't really told that was something that I would go and do. I remember all the bright boys in my school went and did engineering, and I went and studied law. That was kind of a girl's degree. And I know lots of women are engineers now, but the balance isn't right still. And so we're kind of really trying to push that understanding and raising the profile of STEM from a really young age, particularly for, we go in and we see children that the teacher might come up to us and say, wow, I've never seen this child engage like this. Like, this is not one of the children that thrives in, your traditional academic subjects. That will be the case for all of us that are here. Different children, different things are right for them. And so because we're all about kind of practical hands-on things, it just lights some children up. And it's really nice, as being an ex-primary school teacher, to see that, because we recognize what that teacher's position is, because we were that teacher, and we sometimes were surprised by the children in those classes. And then they always say to us, gosh, I can tell you're a teacher, just because of the way that we interact with the children, which is a big benefit. So yeah, it's just the community aspect for us is just getting as many children as possible to understand what STEM is and that it could be for them.
Yeah, and that that is a powerful message, and it's great to be able to stand there as a female and be a real advocate for it. I think that's great, and it says to all the teachers as well that are in those sessions watching, and the TAs, all of them will go home and they'll have conversations about that too. So that's a great thing. Well done. And Jane, for you with performance as well, you do different types of performance. Of the community quite heavily involved in coming to watch things, or how do you work with the community with yours?
Yeah, so Little Voices goes into schools. We're 4 to 18 predominantly, so we cross primary and secondary right up to 18, SEND as well. We have all the holiday clubs and working with the HAF programs and children that wouldn't normally be able to access something like this because there's not necessarily disposable income within their families. We really cut across section. We also have the community groups as well, which was the original Little Voices concept, or 18 years ago, but we've built on so many different programs and ways of working, so we're touching every child. This is open to all children. Arts were cut very dramatically from the curriculum many years ago, and it's no surprise that I think that we've got not just COVID and the rise in tech, but a huge mental health pandemic in itself. But we've no creative outlets in schools now because it's so driven towards the core outcomes. So for us, it's not about a life on the stage and performance and dance pants and dance shoes. We don't do dance. It's all about finding your voice, whatever that looks like. We're all going to have to do a speech, go and do a presentation, go to an interview at some point. And with the rise in tech, we're losing the ability to use our voices and socially connect. And we need that. So our classes absolutely impact communities and, go away from the technology. There's no phones, there's no iPads, there's nothing it's about that time, that safe, creatively safe space to find your voice and be yourself through drama and singing.
Yeah, wonderful. It's powerful stuff. I know, like, I was immersed in the arts at my school and running lots of different, and it was literally all about like getting this kind of natural high and this natural buzz. And I think that's really important for children. And it has a massive impact on the parents. I still have parents messaging me on Facebook just saying, oh, I just heard a song and I remember my son being in it, and in the dance show. And it's really interesting how it sort of evokes memories of like happy times, and that's how it should be. So yeah, hopefully we'll get more funding for creative arts, but there you go. So what I was wondering, obviously in schools, we're quite, there's a lot of metrics that we have to deal with. Like, how do you sort of like find that you're doing the right thing, that you're making the right kind of impact? I'm going to ask Tessa to start with MiniMe Mindfulness. How do you make sure that impact is hitting the right mark? What sort of what do you do to kind of make sure that that's working for you and your franchisees?
Yeah, well, we actually, interestingly, I really believe that obviously what we are teaching in terms of life skills, courage, resilience, inner calm, happiness, but not just the self-awareness, but also the ability to then understand the tools that are available and how to apply them as well to really achieve positive outcomes. So I'm kind of against that, testing the children in our subject, because it's all about kind of building them up from the inside. However, as we know, we are a culture, I suppose, that's driven by metrics, and it's like, if we're going to spend money here, we need to understand the input and the output. Well, we recently have actually had all of our courses accredited by CPD, so we know that what we're teaching, our in-person courses, our kind of online courses, are of a standard where we're not just teaching the children, but the teachers that are in the room are also gaining a level of CPD accreditation towards their ongoing development as well. So we've had that kind of validation from the third party, if you like, that's looked at all of our material and actually said, you know what, yep, let's actually CPD accredit not just our training program for our franchisees, but the training courses for the children, which and also for the teachers as well. So we gained that kind of external validation because we thought it was important in terms of the quality of materials that we're actually working with and the programs that we are presenting within our sessions. And then in terms of output, we've been running for kind of, as a company for 5 years, as a franchise for 4 years. So I've been very much kind of a maverick in the franchise space, where when we first started, it's like you have to have a certain number of, years on your books before you can franchise. And I was very much like, well, do you know what? There's a lot of work and impact that we can have in that time whilst we're getting numbers on a spreadsheet. So we're now at the point where it's kind of feedback really from the teachers, from the head teachers, in terms of the impact that our programs are having within schools. So with our longest kind of standing, I suppose, long-standing commitments within schools, we are, you know, we're working on our third academic year with some primary schools that we've been working in, and everyone we've been working with have extended the opportunities to work with us. So you might have been working with years 1 and 2, and now they said, can you work with reception as well? Everyone wants more. So first of all, that is a mark of it's doing something positive. And then we are literally having we're in the process of kind of that validation from the school to say, this is where we started, this is where we've kind of finished up. But our curriculum spans 2 academic years. We teach 25 superpowers over the course of 60 sessions, so we can work with the same cohort of children for that 2 academic years. So we're not kind of out the other side of the whole program yet, but we know it's creating significant impact because of the reviews that we get, and we share those openly. And, you know, on a Saturday morning, I sit and I read our reviews from all the franchisees around the country, and it literally brings me to tears. You know, little Jimmy was not able to join the football team, and now he's able to, you know, can I join this football team this season? Or, you know, this child who was selected mute whilst joining reception had their first words, this is brilliant, whilst leaving one of my sessions. You know, you can tell by the feedback you get, the feeling that you get from the children, as Joe just said, around when you arrive and they're like excited to see you and come into your sessions. So they want to learn, they want to onboard it. And then also from the teachers, the feedback that we're getting in terms of the superpowers that we teach, the language goes back into the classrooms. So now we're on our third academic year of some infant schools, for example. That whole school is talking the MiniMe mindfulness language, because all of our superpowers are not just being taught on that one session, they've been brought into the classroom, and it has changed the school kind of dynamics in terms of, you know, mental health support for the classroom. So we've, you know, in terms of hard facts and numbers, we haven't got them yet. And I don't want to test the children, but we do have the kind of, this is where we started, this is where we are now. And the extension of our services from most of the schools that we're working with, you know, is kind of proof in the pudding for me. And that's enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be invited back to several year groups, I think that says a lot. Jane, I'd love to know from you, having been, you know, a more established franchisor, how do you know that you're doing things really well? What sort of metrics do you put in place with this making an impact beyond the classroom?
Oh my gosh, there's metrics galore, but I'd like to say that we're also not Ofsted with our franchisees at all. Like, that's not even, like, we don't want to even go there. Yeah. Metrics should be there to help and impact. They shouldn't be there to control and rip the soul from something. But it's important to see how you're doing. And I would think any business would do this, any organisation would do this. Yes, reviews, yes, customer feedback from schools, from parents, from children, looking at their journey. You know, the 4-year-olds that have stayed with us till they're 18 years old. I've got a couple of girls that are about to leave one of our franchises. They remember me as their first teacher. I haven't taught for a long time now. But they say, that's my safe space. That's where my friends are. That's like a second home to me, going to Little Voices. Like, that is the heart and soul stuff, that you've been there as part of the village raising a child for all of those years. The feedback from parents, that the happiness to give us, you know, videos, etc., and testimonials galore is wonderful. From a business point of view, we're obviously a member of the BFA, the British Franchising Association. I wasn't in the early days, but we are now. You've got to meet a code of ethics to be part of that. It's a rigorous process to be checked and double checked and assessed every year to go through that. There's a big cost to that too. But equally, we also do the franchise satisfaction survey. Now, that's the one that I adore, because that's true anonymous feedback from our franchisees, all of them, where they give us feedback on every area of the business that we provide, from the support to the programs to the marketing to the, you know, are we doing what we say we're doing on the tin? And then they anonymously give us that feedback. Again, the first year I got it, absolutely brutal. I cried for 2 days, but it gave me valuable feedback that we just, you know, improved and got better and better. And every year we've achieved the 5-star satisfaction survey. And then last year, the continuous improvement. So, you know, I think franchising, our network, every network should be about shared success. So every review from every parent and every school is everybody else's success as well, mine included. So metrics are important, but to have them in the right place and have them in the right measure as well.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. And Laura and Joe, what I'd like to know from you is, from a kind of teaching point of view, obviously you were making an impact and you were getting kids through particular gradings or particular subjects, but now you're franchising. What kind of, how's that impact changed for you as a former teacher? What sort of difference can you see in terms of perhaps the freedom that you've got now?
Shall I go?
You want to go first?
Well, I'd say the main difference, and certainly for teaching from a language perspective, is the repetition, the opportunity to repeat and repeat with the young children, their own, they're under fives. And I think you don't have that time teaching when you're teaching in the classroom. You've got the syllabus to get through, you've got the scheme of work to cover, and obviously they're a lot older. Unless you're in primary teaching languages, you've still got to follow the scheme of work, and you've got a rigorous sort of topics to get through. We have a monthly song of the month. It might be Three Little Ducks, where they'll learn their counting and some animals, or it might be head, shoulders, knees and toes, and they'll learn the body parts. But it's repetition, repetition, repetition. And I think that's the beauty of it, that you can see the confidence that the children are developing week in, week out, the same hello, welcome song, the same goodbye song. They're learning the vocab, they're building on their confidence. They don't even realize it's happening because they're having fun. And I think that's the difference really from mainstream teaching, is that you can really, yes, you're not giving them a test at the end of it, but you can see, get to know the children because you're seeing them each week. And our long-standing relationships with the nurseries, we've had some of them for 9 years since we've been, nearly coming up for 10 years since we've been working with them. And you can see as they go through from the toddler class and they leave at preschool, they're singing the songs at home, and the parents are messaging saying, what's this song that they're singing? I don't really get. And I'm like, oh, that's horsey, horsey, and they're like, oh, can you send it to me? So I'll send them the song. And it's just that repetition that I think is so invaluable to the young learners, that builds on their confidence. It makes them leave nursery feeling excited to learn languages when they get to primary school, and then on to secondary school. But if we can give them, if we've instilled their enjoyment and some confidence by the time they leave nursery, then we feel we've done our job. And so far we're doing it well.
Lovely. Thank you. Laura, same question to you.
Yeah, so I mean, as a primary school teacher, obviously I always had my class. So there were 30 little children who were, my little people that I hung out with every single day. And, there's such a camaraderie and a relationship developed when you have that for a year. And so you feel that you're able to have like an impact perhaps on more of a personal level than when you don't see children every day and they don't know you and trust you so much perhaps. So, I mean, definitely from a personal point of view, I do miss kind of those relationships with the children that you have in the classroom. And I think most teachers would probably miss that part because you don't go into teaching because you don't like children, right? So like that's the bit that teachers love. But at the same time, because we run clubs every week, we do get to kind of get relationships with new children in different ways. Actually, you're only teaching them for the bit that they absolutely love, and the bit that they're fascinated with and excited about. So you do still have kind of that impact relationship with children, just in quite a different way. And I think also, I know a lot of people are kind of looking at leaving the classroom. Obviously I did, obviously Joe, you also did. That just from a personal point of view, being able to have my weekends back and not having to worry about all the paperwork or the displays, all of the other things that I was perhaps worrying about when I was trying to teach, I can actually focus on the teaching and the bit that I enjoy, right? And the bit that makes a difference to the children. And so not having all of those other things on my mind and knowing that I do, like you said, Joe, the same kind of is, obviously we don't repeat the same songs every week, but like, because we're doing engineering, we will do the same set of lessons with different schools and different children. Like, we get better at teaching them as well. Like, every time we do it, we're like, oh, next time I'm going to skip that bit or do this bit. And so, like, your practice as a teacher develops, you are making more of an impact every time you do it, because you're improving the way that you teach those workshops. So, you know, for me, I feel like there are obviously parts of classroom teaching that you miss and that you don't perhaps have an impact with, but they are more than made up for in the ways that you can impact the children that you come into contact with.
Excellent, thank you. And it'd be nice to know, in sort of one sentence from each of you, about what do you think the biggest impact is for parents of those children. So if you can think about sessions you had, it might be a review that someone's given you, or someone stopped you in the corridor and just said such and such. It'd be really nice to hear you know, that kind of feedback, if that's okay. So I'm going to start with Jane, because I feel like you might have a good one.
Oh, well, I'm just thinking about the most recent, because it's forefront in my mind. I was meeting with a franchisee the other day, and she said, I've got to show you this text message. I said, go on, show me the text message. She said, oh, it'll make you cry. And every single time I have feedback, it does bring me to tears. Like, I'm not even teaching directly the children of thousands across the country anymore, but every child has something amazing to share. And I'm almost on the journey with every franchisee, as we all will be. And the message came from a father who said his son was going through his SATs that week in primary school. He'd come out of school at the end of the day, really stressed out about the SATs he'd had that day. Had gone to Little Voices. Now, you know, just to touch on, we do, every one of our children goes through the LAMDA exam program, but we do it in a hugely fun way. Like, the word exam to a child at Little Voices is just wonderful. It's exciting. They can't wait to get there after the exam. They're sort of in the classroom going, when's the next one? What we're doing next? But anyway, this father had said, I brought him along to Little Voices because it was the exam night that night. And I was thinking, oh gosh, not 2 exams in one day, this poor boy. But he came running out. He was like, that was the best experience. He was so happy. He was so proud of himself. And he said, it's made me just go in and deal with the SATs for the rest of the week with, I can just smash them. I can do it. If I can do anything I set my mind to, because, you know, so the way we approach that has actually impacted that little boy's view of exams for the rest of the week, and probably for the rest of his life when he goes to do GCSEs and A-levels. And that, though, when you get a piece of feedback from a parent who's really recognised the bigger picture on their child's life, from just sending them once a week to an activity that on the tin says drama and singing, is incredible.
Yeah, that's impressive, isn't it? And I think that's really important, that this idea about, you know, learning can be done in different ways, but having that support of the parent to see that bigger picture is really, really important, isn't it? If your kid's coming home saying, oh, I've got this homework and the teacher's done this, and, you know, and then you're negative towards that, that's going to impact them. But you can tip it, can't you? As a parent, you can tip it, and you can take them to that session, even though you think, oh, that's another exam to tick off. And it can have a profound impact on them, and then on your relationship with that child as well, I think, at home, and for the rest of that SATs week as well. It must have been bliss with that kid.
I know, and it's a really beautiful thing to have that kind of impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Jo, have you got a review from a parent to mind?
Yeah, so the way we work is slightly different, is that we don't get much access to the parents, because we are working just a bit like Laura. We're working directly with the nurseries. So to ever hear feedback from parents, it's kind of like I have to wait for them to get in touch with me. A lot of nurseries don't like me trying to pitch out review testimony links and things like that. They don't really want to promote any one activity. But I think the biggest the way I know that parents want their child to go to mini Lingos is when the nurseries say to me, and quite a few nurseries have said that a parent wants to change the day that their child is going to nursery because they want to come on a mini Lingos day. And that to me speaks volumes, because there's obviously a lot of parents WhatsApp conversations going on in their own little communities, we don't hear about that because we're not privy to that information from parents. And when, we used to do community classes, but we don't anymore. And the opportunity is there, but we focus directly in the nurseries. And I think to know that chat is going on behind the scenes in such a positive way that parents want their kids to be there on a Mini Lingos day, I think that's music to my ears.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's a really nice thing to hear. Laura, have you had something similar? Because I guess, like Joe says, it's difficult for you to access the parents.
Yeah, so as I said, I run a club in my daughter's school, and so I get, one parent who's a friend of mine said, "Oh my gosh, it's the first non-sports club my son has ever wanted to attend." But I was just looking up here because I've got various nice reviews stuck above my desk. So I was kind of looking, and I've got a really long one, and I knew there was a really nice sentence in it that I can read out. So it was a dad that he'd seen some of our online little steamers. So our little steamers is our preschool up to and early years STEM kind of offering. So it's science as well as engineering. And we do this thing where we smell things, like we warm up our senses and stuff. And he sent this long email being very positive, etc. And then he said, one question, Rosie, so Rosie would have been about 3, I guess. One question Rosie asked me on an evening walk home from nursery that will stick with me for a lifetime, which I'm certain would never have been asked if it weren't for little steamers. Quote, "Daddy, what does stars smell like?" And I was like, that's just like the cutest thing, and like promoting that curiosity and, the love for science and stuff. So yeah, I've shared that because it was printed out above my desk.
That's a brilliant quote, isn't it? And that's exactly it. That sort of, that curiosity is what we kind of all want from children, isn't it? When they take any session, that we want them to immerse themselves in it and then think about the bigger picture beyond that. So that's a really lovely quote. Thank you. Tessa, do you get a lot from parents, or do you? Yeah.
Yes, we do get a lot from parents.
It's a good one.
Do you know what? I think what's happening right now for parents is a lot of parents are confused or lost in the kind of the mental well-being of their children, because we've never ever seen children that have been through the developmental issues and challenges that children are experiencing right now. No one has experienced that. So as parents, I think a lot of parents are feeling quite lost, quite unsure, quite disconnected with how they should tackle conversations with their children, how they understand the mental health challenges that are happening within the early years and primary and high school. Throughout the whole, every cohort is experiencing different challenges, and we know that the challenges are way different to when we were kids. I'm putting myself in the same age bracket as you all. But when we were younger, we didn't have such a thing. So I think for us now, we are a service that parents lean on, and they're grateful to be partnering with, because what we do is we teach children the positive mindfulness and mindset techniques. So we don't just help raise awareness with children, but we also, which is an important part, to understand what's happening in their emotions and their feelings and their mind, their body, their hearts, and what's happening on the inside. But we also then go that step further and give them tools to say, if you're feeling like this is what you can experience, and this is how you can support yourself. So we're really giving the children the tools that they can use to move themselves from where they are to where they want to be. And that's a very gradual journey. So we are working long term with children, whether that be in a classroom, whether that be in a community setting, whether that be one-on-one with a child. We offer all services, and we also teach all brains in all ways. So we know that what we're building is the toolkit for life. And we also, with our sessions, we ensure that the communication is really tight with parents, because we can teach the superpowers, but what makes them really powerful is when the children use them. And so we tell the parents, this is what we've been working on with your child, and this is how you can continue to support them at home by practicing these superpowers. We call them superpowers because obviously that's how the children relate. However, they are life skills, positive mindfulness, positive psychology, and neuroscience. And talking about reviews, we actually had one of the parents that went to one of our sessions with a franchisee in Northamptonshire. When the parent dropped the child off, they just said, I don't know what you did last week, but we've got a different child. So when our franchisee was actually opening up the session, and we always, talk about the superpower we've learned previously in the week before, how do we practice that? What was the outcome? How did you feel? And the little girl who was 8, she said, and we've just been working on the animals inside. So talking about the voices in our heads and our feel-good fox and our monkey, the characters that we bring into play. And she said, I heard the voices. And now I know who it is. I know who's talking to me, and I know which one to listen to. So that lesson in itself helped that child in terms of, I understand this is normal. This is what's happening. I now get it. And therefore, she's obviously responded differently at home, and her parent noticed the difference. And whether she was able to articulate that, but she obviously found some peace, some inner calm, some happiness, and some kind of understanding from that situation. So that changes the trajectory for that 8-year-old and that family. And even if, and I say to all the franchisees, even if you just change the setting of the sale by 1%, that child ends up in a completely different place. And so for us, working with parents is extremely important, because we believe actually for a long-term sustainable success within the mental health and wellbeing arena, it takes us all linking arms together, not just having a half an hour session each week and then kind of half of it's forgotten and then you kind of come back the next week. It is about keeping it fun. It is about keeping it engaging. It is about being innovative with the way that we teach, through stories, through games, through guided meditation. And my children are our meditation coaches. So every child hears from a child's voice. So the engagement is really high. So we've got children that are looking forward to the sessions. They're learning life skills while they're there. And then they're coming back excited to learn again the following week. So parent relationships really important. And it's so much so we've actually created courses for parents so that they can take a deep dive into all the things that we teach, understand the science behind them, and really kind of teach themselves, so that we know that there's a better connection going on at home if everybody's learning together.
That sounds wonderful. Yeah, it's great for something for the parents to have, isn't it? To kind of look and reflect on and use that practice that's all been thought out in a proper way. That's wonderful. Yeah, great stuff. So I just would like to end on the final point, and that is for teachers watching this today and thinking about making an impact beyond the classroom. What could they be doing today? Sort of top tip for them that they could be doing like within their class or within their enrichment program. And it could be something unique to your franchise, or it could just be something that you've thought of, or that you've worked through tried and tested methods. Laura, I'd like you to go first, if that's okay. Have you got a top tip for teachers?
Yeah, sure. So we actually send out free STEM hero resources every single week for free to teachers. So and we have a version for early years as well, which is our STEM story videos, which are also free. So though in our STEM heroes, we've really focused on diversity, on having current, not all dead white men. So lots of people who are still alive, lots of girls, lots of people from a range of ethnicities and racial backgrounds and different countries. So we send different people out every week, and they're really great to share with your class. They're often linked to something topical. It might be linked to Halloween or Christmas or, like Space Week or something. And they just help children see that they can be in STEM themselves, and there's no commitment. You can just sign up and get them and use them when you want them. So if you do want them, inventorsandmakers.com, you can sign up for them on our website. But yeah, that's all free if you wanted to use those in your classroom anytime.
Great top tip and free resources. I like it. Jo, you're next.
My top tip would be to use music and song more in your classes. It's something I never occasionally used to do when I was teaching in my Spanish class. But I would say every lesson, start the lesson with a fun welcome song, just to get the vibe going. Even if they're year 11, it doesn't matter how old they are. It's engagement, and sing an adios song, sing a goodbye song to close for the plenary. Just something, music and song is just so powerful, I think, for any age. And I really, that's my top tip. Highly recommend it. If anyone would like a mini Lingos welcome song, they can always get in touch with me. and I'd be happy.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, thank you, Jo. And Tessa, what's your top tip for teachers?
My top tip for teachers is work on your own mindset. I'm a passionate mindset mentor. I spent 23 years in the city, 10 years business coaching. Then I realized actually one of the key things to success in every area, whether it's relationships, jobs, careers, as an entrepreneur, as a parent, is actually working on yourself first. Quite often we actually flip that and we think, do you know what, we put ourselves last and we're absolutely exhausted. But do you know what? You are the one person that your world revolves around. And therefore, you have to look after your own mental health first. And if you can start your day topped up to overflowing and people are taking from the saucer rather than draining your cup, then you can be more, you can do more, you can have more, you can give more, you can serve more. And therefore, you're going to give way more to the children in your care, in your classroom, in your world, if you start with you first. And I'm super passionate about that. So we've created a course for parents, and I'll send Katie the link actually, which is free access to an 11-hour CPD course, which is called MiniMe time, because I truly believe that everyone needs to spend a small amount of me time every single day working on yourself first before you give to your classroom. Because I do you know what, as a mum, it devastates me, and chatting to you as well, Katie, around how so many teachers are fleeing the classrooms. It's like, we need amazing teachers out there. And I know one of the reasons, obviously, you know, those who can, some want to stay. And do you know what, if you really just work on yourself first, maybe teaching in the classroom is not the issue. Maybe it's just if you're not giving yourself enough value and putting yourself first. Because if you do, and you realign with your passion and your goals, and you feel better about yourself, the classroom might be where you want to be. But if not, there is, what I would encourage you to do is work on your vision. It's another top tip. It's like, where do you want to be in 5 years' time? And work out a plan and make that happen, because do you know what, you're only here once. So if the classroom's not the place for you, work out where you want to be and what aligns with your passion and your soul, whether it is teaching, whatever subject it is it's teaching. If you want to work with little people, we've all got opportunities that you can align with. Have a chat with people, just work out what your options are. But the first thing is, make change when you feel good about yourself. Don't make change when you're from an empty point. So build yourself up first of all. Give to yourself so you can serve more, to other people, and also know that there are other options. You don't have to. You're not a tree. You're not stuck. You can move. Life is exciting, whether you're inside the classroom or outside the classroom. But we've all got those options. And get in touch. Chat to the franchisors that are available, because you've got to work with these people for a long time. So you've got to like who you're working with, like the subject, but you should be enjoying life. So, but make the decisions from a point of a positive mental health, rather than actually feeling exhausting and jumping, out the frying pan into the fire. Work on you first. MiniMe time. I'll send the link to Katie and a code as well, so you can get that course for free, and really invest in yourself before thinking about making any changes.
That's lovely, Tessa. And thank you so much for sharing that link. I'll send it out in the newsletter for everyone. So that's very generous of you. Thank you. And Jane, have you got a top tip that you think works really well?
Well, of course, I'm going to align with Jo on the sense of sing, because it's just one of the most amazing things. But often people only sing in the shower. They won't sing in public because they were told at school, oh, you can't be in the choir because you need to keep a bit more quiet. And that's the worst thing we can do to somebody. Like, everybody's got a voice. Everybody's got a voice. It won't always all be in tune. But often I think just, facilitating taking a breath before you start to sing, or before you start to speak, or as a child puts the hand up and say, just take a breath. But not one of those breaths where they have, and the shoulders are up here. That's not taking a breath. Fill your lungs, fill all of your diaphragmatic area, and just take that really deep breath. And that will link beautifully with Tessa as well, where, sometimes just as a teacher, you need to take a breath and just, breathe deeply, teach the children to breathe deeply, and definitely sing every day.
Amazing. I'm actually going to sing every day now. Good stuff. And I'm definitely one of those who's not very good at singing. Unlike Laura, who's very good at singing, do a great Taylor Swift impression.
There's a context to this.
We need to hear you now, Laura. Come on.
That was a fast interview.
Well, I cannot thank you ladies enough for joining us this evening and just talking about making an impact beyond the classroom. It's so important with the cuts that have happened with children's mental health and well-being. It's really important that there are facilities out there for them to take advantage of, and like Jane was saying, no matter whether they've got the money for it or not, there's ways that they can go about it and they can access these amazing things. And as a teacher, you know, if you can dig deep and run a club yourself, that would be amazing. And if you like it and you enjoy it, then that could be your future career as well. So it's all about this sort of trial and error, I think. But if you're trying something that you love and you're passionate about, you're not going to go wrong. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Thank you so much, ladies. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing your stories. And yeah, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, Katie.
Bye-bye.